If I quit going to church on Sunday, am I still going to be able to pay my bills? Yeah. Am I still going to be able to live? Yeah. And so now all of a sudden, church becomes an option. Ministry becomes an option. Because we don't allow ourselves to be tied to it. But here's the thing. Why do we consider church an option? Why do we consider ministry an option? Because we don't have the right mindset. The Bible says that we are a slave to the lender. Guess what's going to happen to the house that you live in 50 years? Somebody else is going to probably be living there. Who knows? Jesus may come back and it's not going to be standing. The Bible tells us in Revelation there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. So the house that we have is going to be gone. The car that we drive is going to be gone. 50 years, the car that you're driving right now is probably going to be in a junkyard somewhere. Crushed up metal. Well, they don't make them out of metal anymore, so fiberglass, whatever. Trying to recycle them. Most of them out of aluminum now, so they're probably going to be a Pepsi can. Something like that. But think about it. Brian's got the scripture right there. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth have passed away. We will not quit our job that we hate, that tears us apart mentally, because I got to keep a house to live in. I will not quit my job that I hate mentally because I've got to have a car to drive. But the truth of the matter is that car and that house eventually are going to pass away. The car is going to break down, especially if it's a Ford. You're welcome, Justice. Oh, okay. Just because I had to go to the mountain and get Julia and JR and their Ford. I'm just joking. There's some really nice Ford trucks that I kind of look at and I'm like, man, I'd really like to have one now. I don't have the payments. I can't do the payments. That's all that is. But think about that though, right? Every vehicle. Y'all realize that? Like, car dealerships don't make their money on selling you a car. Car dealerships make their money on the maintenance and the service and the return aspect of you coming. Right? Henry Ford makes the first Ford, right, in the 19-teens. Guess what happens in the 1920s? Garages begin to open because somebody got to work on them. They're man-made. They're going to fail. No matter if you got a Ford, Toyota, Chevrolet, Dodge, whatever. Right? I used to work at Kia as a salesman. I used to tell people, hey, get 10 years, 100,000 miles. You know why? You're going to need it. All right? That's what I tell them. You're going to need it. It's going to tear up. Because everything that we have on this planet is temporary. Our homes are temporary. You don't believe me? Go drive down through the farms. There's a place, Caleb works at a farmer's house down in Piney Flats, and there's this curve that we go into. It has this beautiful farm off down in the holler down there at the end. Old farmhouse. Built like they used to be built right, built to last. Probably been there 100 years, but it's falling apart. Because things here are temporary. They're temporary. But yet those are the things that we concentrate the most on. Our mindset is not right. We make church an option. We make ministry an option because we're not a slave to it. But look at what Paul says in Romans 6, 17 and 18. But God be thanked that you were the servants of sin. But you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine which was delivered to you in verse 18. Being then made free from sin, you became the servant of righteousness. There's at one part where Paul writes and says, I'm Paul, a slave, a bondservant is what it calls it, to Jesus Christ. I don't know about you, but I just got some chills right there. Why is it that we are slaves to the bank? We're slaves to our jobs, but we're not slaves to Christ. Notice what Paul did. Notice what the disciples did. They left everything. Matthew was a tax collector, left his stand and followed Jesus. Paul, multiple times in the New Testament, Paul tells us where he depended on the love and the money of those that he was coming to see. He left his education. He left everything to follow Christ because he was a slave to Jesus Christ. But we look at that term slave as a negative sense, right? We look at that term slave as a negative sense. We think, Men's Sunday School again, been talking about Genesis. They talked about Joseph being sold into slavery. We talk about slavery here in America. We talk about slavery in the negative sense. But the way that Paul is talking about this, he says, I'm a slave to Jesus Christ because I owe him everything. And because he has the control of everything. Again, we said it before. The bank owns your house. The bank owns your car. Jesus Christ has bought and paid for and owns your soul. Which one's more important? We'll quit ministry, we'll quit church because things get tough, even though we owe him our life, yet we show up to work day after day after day. People can't retire when they want to. People can't retire when they need to because the bank owns something that's going to fall away and be gone. Our mindset has got to change. We've got to realize that we owe Christ more than we owe the bank. We owe Christ more than we owe the dealership. We have got to get into a mentality of being Christ first and being a slave, a bondservant to Jesus Christ. Verses 29 and 31, though, here in Isaiah, gives us a little bit of good news. All right, because I know the first part of that is a little dreary, right? Not going to get a whole lot of good evaluations on that one, right? Like, well, you done made my Sunday awful. So let's give you the good news, right? Verse 29, he gives power to the faint and to them that have no might, he increases strength. 30, again, even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But 31, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. You notice there's a lot of shalls in here. The young men shall weary and faint. That means they will. It's going to happen. When you become a Christian and you truly give your life to Christ, you will have times where you're going to weary and faint. It's going to happen. But if you wait upon the Lord, now again, we oftentimes get that word wait completely wrong. We get that idea of wait, of sitting here on my pride and dignity and not doing nothing. When you go to the restaurant today for lunch, you're going to have somebody that's called a waiter. They're going to be sitting on their hind end doing nothing? No, they're going to make sure your tea glass is full. They're going to make sure you get your order right. They're going to be waiting on you. Same word as serve. But they that wait upon the Lord, those that serve the Lord, Those that are waiting upon God to do something shall renew their strength, shall mount up with wings like eagles. That is a symbol of power. It is a symbol of might. You shall run and not be weary. You shall walk and not be faint, which means you're going to get a second wind. Go ahead and show them that picture there, Brian. The picture. I'm getting this. Hey, I didn't hear that. You're going to get a second wind. Y'all remember the Rocky movies? Man, loved Rocky movies. Don't matter which Rocky movie it is. You watch Rocky, right? I always think of Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 when he's with Apollo Creed. Apollo's done beat him stupid, right? Can't see nothing, cut me Mick, right? And the bell rings. And what's Rocky do? He gets up and he goes, come on. Man can't stand up. He's like, come on. Apollo just standing there shaking his head. Fights the Russian. Russian beating him half to death. Rocky gets up. One point, he's like, come on, let's go. Fighting Clubber, right? Getting hit in the late rounds. He's like, oh, you ain't so bad. You ain't so bad. He gets that second win, right? We look at that and he's like a hero. Sometimes we've got to get a second win like that with Christ. Sometimes the world has beat us stupid in the corner and the world is waiting for us to not get up off the stool and answer the bell. But we've got to get up and answer the bell and say, come on. But here's the problem. Why can we not do that? Because we're worried about our strength and not His strength. With man, things are impossible, but with God, all things are possible. If you enjoyed that message, then you'll want to check out this video for more biblical truths. You can help spread the gospel by clicking the like button or even consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you to the next one.